Let's get into it. Greetings and welcome to the SwagHer Daily Brief, produced by Arya T.M. Davis, and I'm your host, Fancy. This is news for the women closing the gap in wealth and ownership, and in who gets to tell their own story. Pausing for a quick second, you all see behind me on the side of me, there is a flyer because we are hosting the CEO Self Care Experience July 11th at Diva Day Spa in Upper Co, Maryland. If you are interested in attending this event, it's all about networking and shooting content and pampering ourselves. Like, I don't know what more there is to say. Like, why wouldn't you want to attend? We're gonna be at the spa, but I felt like this was an opportunity for business women to show a different side of themselves. Usually when we do photo shoots, we have our laptops, our iPads, some type of paper and pen, and we're showing this business side of us. But what about that softer side? Because we oftentimes talk about self-care now, but I feel like our audience also needs to see us practicing self care. So why not come out to the CEO Self Care Experience with us July 11th? Now, for story number one, New York City releases 180,000 racial wealth gap findings. Let's start with the numbers because they are impossible to ignore. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani has released a preliminary citywide racial equity plan, and the findings are stark. The median household wealth for white New Yorkers sits at $276,000. For Black New Yorkers, it's $18,000. That's a gap of more than $180,000 between white and Black households in the same city. Mondani's office says the disparity isn't an indictment of the people living in New York. It's an indictment of policy and a system that's been allowed to operate this way for generations. The plan proposes expanded diversity initiatives and shifts in city spending aimed at closing that gap. My thoughts: numbers like this aren't new information to us. We've been living inside that gap our whole lives. What matters is what gets done with that data now that it's official and on paper. A plan is not a fix, but naming a gap out loud in a report from a mayor's office is a different kind of pressure than we've had before. I want to see the follow through, the budget lines, the actual dollars moving. That's what turns a headline into change. My question for you guys: do you think reports like this lead to real policy change, or does the data just sit on a shelf? Tell me what you think in the comments. I'd love to know. In our second story, Savannah James lunches signed, backed by Jay-Z's Marcy Capital. Now let's talk about a woman building her own umbrella. Savannah James, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and longtime business partner to April McDaniel, has launched Signed, a new holding company bringing together her creative agency, Crown Plus Conquer, her members only women's community, Let It Break, and her podcast, Everybody's Crazy. The company is backed by Capital Partners, the private equity and venture firm co founded by Jay Z. Christopher Gray, who has held leadership roles at Nike and Whedon Kennedy, London, joins as chief creative officer. James and McDaniel say the move is about ownership after leaving their distribution deal with Dear Media. They turned down a bigger in house offer to build their own studio instead. My thoughts: we bet on ourselves. That's the whole lesson right there. Savannah James didn't just launch a company. She consolidated years of separate projects into one owned ecosystem backed by capital that understands the vision instead of trying to reshape it. That's the difference between being a talent and being an owner. If you are building three or four different things right now that don't yet talk to each other, this is your sign to ask what your version of signed looks like. My question for you guys: if you had to bundle everything you're building under one company name, what would you call it? Drop it in the comments. And in our last story, Danny Glover reveals Alzheimer's diagnosis. And yet we want to close today with a story about courage. Danny Glover, the 79-year-old actor known for Lethal Weapon and The Color Purple, revealed this week that he has been living with Alzheimer's disease for several years. Diagnosed back in 2023, just before receiving the John Herschel Humanitarian Award. Glover and his family shared the news publicly, saying he has noticed changes in his speech and movement as the disease has progressed. He says he can live with it and that he wanted to share his story to help break the stigma around Alzheimer's, especially in Black communities where conversations about cognitive decline are still too rare. My thoughts on the matter. Danny Glover has spent a career telling other people's stories. Now he's telling his own in real time while he's still here to tell it. That takes a specific kind of courage, especially knowing how this disease is often talked about or not talked about in our community. Alzheimer's doesn't discriminate, but access to early diagnosis and support often does. If this is anywhere near your family, don't wait for a headline to start the conversation. My question for you guys today: has Alzheimer's or dementia touched your family? Share a resource or a word of support in the comments. And someone watching needs it today. I will say, on a personal note, for myself, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, has Alzheimer's, and she has dementia. Um, and to be honest, I hadn't really educated myself on it as much. We don't talk as much, but when I talk to her, I can tell that she's forgetting things or not remembering things correctly. But with this news, it just made me think about how I need to go in and research the subject matter more just so that I can be more informed, because it is a little disheartening when I'm trying to talk to her and, she can't remember if it's me or if it's my daughter Dylan, and she kind of goes in and out. So I can understand a little bit about what that's like, but I definitely need to educate myself more about that matter. But if you have any words of encouragement in the comments, for those who, others who may be also dealing with the same thing, we love to see those too. My sources today was New York City's mayor's office, Fox News, Black Enterprise, Fast Company, Today, and CBS News. Now let me tell you about something that is not going to be here forever. The SwagHer magazine Black Women of the Future issue, anniversary issue, drops this August. And right now we are offering full page ad spots in the digital issue for just $100. $100 to put your brand in front of 300,000 plus readers, many of whom are Black women in business or entrepreneurs and leaders. This is our founders issue. These are our people. Spots are limited. Email advertise@swagher.net to secure yours. That's advertise@swagher.net. That's your SwagHer Daily Brief for Thursday, July 2nd. I'm Fancy. This brief was produced by Arnya T.M. Davis. Stay visible, stay grounded with SwagHer. Peace and blessings.